So since at LowCode, we build software using no-code and low-code tools, the first thing that I want to learn is what their needs are in order to figure out if their idea, their app, their software can be built using no-code and low-code. In some cases, it can't, and then we're not a good fit for them. And then the next step, if it can be built using these tools, which tool is the right one? So we start digging in deeper into their idea, their customers, their users, their data to understand what their needs are, and then start thinking about which is the platform that we might use to build that solution.
Okay, welcome back to the Happily Different podcast. This is the Thursday 13 edition where we cover one topic or concept in around 13 minutes or less. Today, we're going to cover the tactical first steps towards building an app for your company. With the proliferation of no-code and low-code options, access to incredible tools are really at every company's fingertips right now. Every company can have an app, whether used internally or externally. So to help us tackle this, we are joined by our first expert on the Thursday 13, who happens to also be the very first guest of this podcast ever. So be sure to check out that episode too. We'll link it in the show notes. But Jesus Vargas is the founder and CEO of LowCode Agency. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Super excited to be here again.
Awesome. Well, we are don't have a ton of time like we did last time. Over an hour, I think we covered last time. We maybe touched on these topics, but today we're going to talk about, there's a lot being talked about AI and automation and creating apps for your business, whether, like I said, internal, like a lot of our apps are internal for our employees, our team members, less so for our clients. But, you could do it either way, in sort of internal or external apps. And what that all means, there's a lot around that. But just simply, it's typically something that makes your team's life easier, your client's life easier, makes it easier to access information, all that kind of stuff. That's our approach towards it. So as we get into this tactical look at these things, I thought we'd start with an idea. So let's start with an idea. Where does somebody begin and what should they start thinking about as they say, I'd like to build an app for my company? Where do they start?
I think that they have to think of a workflow, of a process that happens in their business that is very complicated and convoluted. And there are a lot of very small and simple tasks that many different roles have to do. So imagine like a logistics process of you have to pick up something here, then let someone know that you've picked it up, then drive somewhere, then deliver it. And then there are multiple statuses through that process. And you either are calling someone or sending a text or doing something. So those processes that have multiple steps and very simple steps that can be automated is usually a good way to start thinking, I can automate this process, streamline it, put it in an app, and then have the different roles, the different users that are involved in that process start doing less things in a more simple way.
Yeah. So you're taking multiple steps. That's a really good way to look at it. All right. What in my business or in my life, whatever it might be, or my company or my organization is a multi-step process that I've always wished could be either less steps, let's say, or something that I don't have to put myself into every single step as they go. So that's a good place for the listeners to sort of start thinking about in their business. I also like to simplify it and say, for 12.5, we looked at the most frustrating and annoying parts of our business. So
that's a great
listener, what do you hate most about your day-to-day workflow? What annoys you? What is the slowest parts of your workflow? And those are usually the lowest hanging fruit for whether it's creating an automation or creating an app. Those are usually the places you can kind of jump right in and get started. All right. So moving on quickly, where do businesses get it wrong early in the process as they're thinking about an app?
In our experience, they get it wrong when they just want to build an app, but they don't know exactly what they want it for. Or they have like a very generic idea, or I want an app for my clients, but they don't know how their clients will log in, why they will log into the app, what will they do in the app, right? So it's just the concept and the actual way the app works are very far away. So I want an app, but I don't really know what it'll do, but I just want my customers to use the app. That's a recipe for disaster. So ideally, we want the business owner to think about the process, and we'll convert that process today, which might be a manual process, to an automated process that will happen in an app or a dashboard or something, right? So not having a very clear expectation of how the app will work and what it'll do, who is it for, that's something that it's a red flag.
It's a red flag. Yeah. And another way of maybe looking at that as a listener, if you're a business owner, is saying, you don't have to be technical to, think of the concept of why somebody will use this app, whether it's your employee or the customer. You don't have to get to the point of, well, they'll log in and then they'll click on this page and then they'll do this page. It's sort of like anything in business or life. It's starting with why would somebody use this? Other than just to say, I have an app, why would somebody log into this app and what would they use it for? It could be, they want to see a status of their account. They want to see the stage that they're in. Or they want to see where that shipment was at, right? It's all the same.
It's about the outcome. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So be thinking through that outcome and saying, what is the point of using this thing? And then, Jesus or somebody like Jesus can back into the technical side of how to make that happen. So speaking of that, when they call a company like yours, what is the very first thing you'll want to cover with them on that first call?
So since at LowCode, we build software using no-code and low-code tools, the first thing that I want to learn is what their needs are in order to figure out if their idea, their app, their software can be built using no-code and low-code. In some cases, it can't, and then we're not a good fit for them. And then the next step, if it can be built using these tools, which tool is the right one? So we start digging in deeper into their idea, their customers, their users, their data to understand what their needs are, and then start thinking about which is the platform that we might use to build that solution.
Yeah, and this is a really important point, because if you're even semi-technical, like me, I like to nerd out on this stuff. I know that there are a million different options to build your app on top of. This is not like the old days where you went to developer and there was one place that they built it on, or a couple of different types of language that they built it on. There are many different options. And so the key is to giving a company like Jesus or someone similar, what you're trying to accomplish and letting them use their tools. That's the benefit of not trying to do it yourself. And I know that from experience, given that I personally started building these apps prior to using Jesus's company, LowCode, right? And that actually was a bit of a hindrance, because I had already started down a road, which meant Jesus had to follow that road somewhat, right? He could try to break off that road a little bit, but I've already started down this road. So, not getting too far ahead and speaking with an expert like Jesus or LowCode or somebody like that, I think is really important towards figuring out what that what service it's going to be built on. So you talked about that. What the first things you'll cover? What would the next step after that be? You've gotten the details of what they're trying to accomplish. You've, in your mind, thought through that a little bit and said, all right, well, I think we're going to head this direction. What's the next step that somebody could expect?
So the next step is, as long as we know what they need, how are we going to build it? And if the limitations of no code and low code are good enough for them, like they'll get 90%, 95%, even 100% done using this tech stack, these no code tools, then the next step is we'll do a scope, which is a proposal. So we do like fixed co-projects for a fixed price. So we write everything down and we plan like the user flow. So everybody's on the same page. Like they know, we understand better how their process works. And we map that like visually so that we are super aligned. We know what they need, how they work, and how we'll enhance that experience. And that becomes the proposal. And after that, we start working with them and then building the app in.
Beautiful. Okay. So, and I've been through that process. That it's actually a great process, because you actually get to walk through the sort of the modeling of what this is going to look like somewhat. It's a very early stages, but it's all right. This mix of ingredients is starting to come together, which is really where it gets fun. How involved are people along the way? How involved are they in the process with you guys?
Ideally, a lot. Like we want our customers, our clients to be very involved in the process, because it's their app, it's their business. And we have to understand in a very short span of time how your business works and how technology can make it better. So we'll have a lot of communication, like myself, my team, project manager, the developers, the designers, with either the business owner, the our contact person in the organization. And we want them to be very involved because there are a lot of things that we require from them. Like, how is your data built today? How many fields do you have in your CRM, right? Depending on what we're building, we need a lot of input. It's different building an MVP about a new idea, because then we have a lot more input. When we're building software for a business, we have to really understand their process, their data, how they manage everything. So there's a lot of back and forth between LowCode and our client in order to have a successful business, and not only a successful app, but also a piece of software that our client understands how to use and how to deploy it with their end users, internal or external.
Right. Well, that leads me perfectly to the next question, which is, what should they expect on delivery of the app? What does that look like for a user?
So at the delivery, we do the handoff call where we explain how the app is built using the tech stack that we decided at the beginning. Ideally, we do a little walkthrough for the different user roles, and we record that video so they have it and they can share it with their teams, so they can start onboarding their users and sharing that video and explaining how everything works. We also deliver like documentation and wireframes so that it is easy for them to go back and see how things are built, and either they can themselves log into the platform and do changes, change whatever layout, screens, etc., or they can always come back to us if they want us to do it. But ideally, using these no-code and low-code platforms, the goal is that business owners and managers can handle those minor changes themselves without having to engage someone like us.
Yeah, and this is a very important part, because back in the day when you went to a software developer, it's basically you had to go back to them to get anything fixed. It was very difficult for a lay person to make a tiny fix here and there. And that has completely changed with low code and no code options. And what is important when you're evaluating firms like low code or another agency is, what does that delivery look like? Because having experienced it, all that documentation, all the videos, all the walkthroughs are so crucial to be able to understand how it's built, learning a little bit about that, how I'm going to get my team onboarded with that, and then how they're going to get our clients onboarded with that. That's all super important. That historically, with some other companies I've ran into, they tend to fail on that part of it, which it ends up on the business owner plate, which is usually what makes it scary. All right, quickly here, things inevitably break or need explanation. Is there any help post delivery?
There is, if it's a bug or an issue that was part of the original scope that we didn't do right, then clients can always come back to us and we'll fix that or explain how things are done. We understand that in 40 minutes, an hour that we cover the handoff call, there are a lot of things that we might have missed. So clients can always come back to us to ask for more detail of how we build something, and we don't charge for that. Other companies, they want to have peace of mind. Like, they can always have us and they can always send us a quick email or a ticket in our support system, and we can always jump in and come in and fix anything or make any changes to the app. So in some cases, we sell these retainer plans where they can have us on support like pretty much every single day of the week. In some other cases, people prefer to deploy their app, get users, get feedback, and eventually come back for a second sprint of changes. And then usually by the second or third sprint, the app is it's like a glove made just for them. And it doesn't need any more changes. Perfect.
That's super helpful. I know from our experience, that's something super important to us and something we've used with you guys in the past. So it's very, very useful. We're running out of time. Anything else we missed here?
I don't think so. I think it's important to have a lot of clarity of what you want to fix and how you want to fix it. Like, what is the output? What is the end result? And then we can bring in technology and use not only no-code and low-code tools, but AI, which is like a trendy, trendy topic that we're leveraging today in many solutions that we're building. So it's important to have clarity of what you need in order for us to suggest something and be able to build something.
Perfect. Well, Jesus is the man, and thank you for spending time with us today, and been super fun and educational. I highly suggest calling his agency and giving them a buzz because, speaking from experience, it's been an awesome experience. Where can they find you online and get in touch?
Our website is lowcode.agency.
Oh, that's easy.
That's it. That's where you find us.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, we'll put it in the show notes. You'll also find him all over LinkedIn, Twitter, and all over the place. So we'll put all that in the show notes as well. Jesus, thank you for joining the show.
Thanks, Ryan.
Take care.